We've demonstrated the basic fundamentals. We need more and we need better. How do you get more and how do you get better? Engineering. Like, we have to engage the engineers. Like, full stop.
Welcome back to Women in Quantum, the podcast where we explore the stories behind the science. I'm Candace Gillhoolley, and in each episode, we go beyond the technical to uncover the journeys, challenges, and perspectives of the women shaping the future of quantum. From the unexpected career paths to bold ideas and real conversations about what it takes to lead in deep tech, this is a space to learn, connect, and be inspired. Whether you're quantum curious or already in the field, you belong here. Today, we're going to be speaking with Rachel Noek, and she is a technical program manager in quantum computing. How are you today, Rachel?
I'm great, Candace. Thanks for having me.
It is absolutely my pleasure. So again, I told you this will be a really easy conversation to have. I want to know more about you. Where are you originally from, and how did that environment shape your early interests and ambitions?
I am from New Mexico. I grew up in New Mexico, stayed here all the way through undergraduate. My family, a lot of them are from South Dakota, so very rural. And when I was 8, we moved to the outskirts of Albuquerque, in this community called Corrales, where we had horses and ducks, and it was very rural. And yeah, it was very interesting being in that area. Well, my dad actually worked at Sandia National Labs and was an electrical engineer there.
Okay, so you had science in the home. So would you say that's what first sparked your curiosity in the sciences?
Definitely, my dad was always doing really interesting things. He's that guy that can fix anything. He can fix anything, the broken TV, the broken coffee maker, that he could take it apart, he can fix it, and he can put it back together, which was always, very inspiring as a kid.
Absolutely. So were there certain subjects that you had a proclivity to when you were first starting out in school and then into high school?
I have always loved math more than anything, math and the sciences. The answers tended to be more concrete, right? And I was drawn to how you could sort of know if you got the right answer, and there were sort of indications if you had the right answer. Whereas some of the, softer subjects, it was harder for me to tell. Am I on the right path, or where are we going with this?
Okay, so then you went to school and then you went to university. What did you specialize in university?
So I studied a lot of math. I focused in math. I minored in chemistry. And there was a while, where I wasn't sure, was I going to do chemistry or was I going to do math? Ultimately, I really love math. That's where I chose to focus.
Okay, so you're on your path, you're doing your math, you're enjoying it. Like, what are you thinking about what you want to do after university?
Now, while I was in university, I was an intern at Sandia Labs the entire time. So actually, I think I started working at Sandia within a number of weeks after graduating from high school. So I was an intern there from the get-go as soon as I was out of high school, and I continued there through undergrad, and actually after I graduated for 3 more years. So I worked closely with PhD chemists, doing a couple of different things. I worked first in a gas analysis lab, so I was a sole operator of a magnetic sector mass spectrometer for those who are more technical in our audience, um, and the working with them was really inspiring. Just watching how they would be introduced to various problems, and they would creatively come up with these interesting solutions. And so that was probably my biggest pull towards chemistry, was that I worked with these chemists and I could see what they did. I had sort of access to, here's what some chemists do. So I also had here's the kinds of things my dad does as a double E, but also here's what chemists do. And I thought that the chemists, these PhD chemists were solving these really sometimes ambiguous problems, right? And so that was really interesting to me. So
Okay.
although it's still, I majored in math.
So you had your
You know,
concrete. You had your concrete with math. The answers were real. Everything was concrete. And now you're also exploring a little bit into the uncertain. And that's kind of
that's right.
exciting too.
That's right. Yeah. And I did, I probed into engineering a little bit. Like I took a lot of early classes in other engineering fields and just wasn't drawn to it, just wasn't drawn to anything as much as math. And I did take a lot of physics also. So chemistry and physics were where I spent a lot of my time. And that was where it was, this is hard and it's interesting. So the challenge there was what pulled me later on.
So when did, okay, so that's you got your master's. Okay. Now, did you then go on to your PhD while you were still working at the lab?
So I actually am one of those people that skipped a master's. So I actually got my undergrad degree in math at UNM, University of New Mexico. And like I said, I stayed and worked as a technologist at Sandia for a few years, realized I would never get to like pick my projects, decide like what is the next thing that I'm going to do, right? Like I would never get to do that as a technologist. And I wanted to be able to do that. So I said, I think I'm going to have to go to graduate school. And I applied to several different programs. Like this is what you do, right? You apply to several different programs, and I also wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do. And if I would, for example, only get into programs very closely related to the experience that I had from working at the labs. So I applied to some programs that were, maybe bio related. And I also applied to some things that were just purely interesting to me, electrical and computer engineering. And so when I went to do these interviews at these schools, I realized that, like I wasn't as interested in this biological related engineering as I was in the electrical and computer engineering. And so talking to all these professors at different universities, afterwards, I just remember I couldn't stop thinking about this quantum computing one. It's like everything, there's so many cool things. Everybody was doing something interesting. Like there was no doubt about that. There were no projects at the universities that I thought, yeah, that's boring. I don't want to do that. Actually, they were all interesting to me. But quantum computing, I just thought, wow, in like 20 years or something, quantum computing it's going to change a lot of things. There's going to be a huge impact there. The potential for impact is enormous with this field. And I thought, wow, I can get in now when I can like make some impact in sort of the fundamental science. So that was really exciting to me, is like entering, and it turns out quantum has blown up, right? I guess I chose well.
Yeah. It's incredibly exciting. And so when you combine it with your interest in math and you already had the interest in physics, so it makes it such a compelling field for you. So when was that moment when quantum clicked?
Ah, it clicked as in it made sense, or it clicked as in this is what I want to do.
Ooh, how about first when it made sense?
Um, I think that early on, my advisor would always say, like, quantum shouldn't make sense to you. It shouldn't be intuitive, right?
Love that you say
And
that,
she's
makes
like,
me feel so good.
um, and so I guess I started with that expectation that it shouldn't make sense, but it was very supported by math, which I love. And I was like, okay, well, I can accept that this is not intuitive to me and that it's something that I don't see. But there's lots of things you don't see, like there's just with your eyes. I believe in germs, but I can't see them on the doorknob or on on the bathroom counter or whatever. So I don't want to say like believing in it too much, but like that you could sort of understand it with math, describe it with math and probe it. And then, science is always this feedback cycle, right? Where you get to the point you think you understand something, but if there's ever information that comes back that makes you question, scientists do stop and question, right? We do stop and question, and we reevaluate, and we may change our minds if there's new information. And so that's always something that so I was given that that's how science works. I was willing to accept, like, yeah, I don't see this in everyday life, but this behavior could exist in the world, right?
Okay. So let me ask you, so how would you explain what you do every day to a non-technical person?
So it's kind of it's interesting because I like to say sometimes that I'm not always sure when my PhD kicks in, but so my specialty is in basically delivering projects or programs. And in doing that, I'm kind of the person as a program manager, a really good program manager, in my opinion, is someone who helps the team figure out what to do when it's not clear what needs to be done, or when there's a lot of, you know, disagreement about what needs to be done. Either of those things, when it's not clear or there's disagreement, we help forge the path forward. My PhD would be useful there because I understand technically, and I can help people weigh things and help lead a team to decisions. And I'm trying to think, like, so I do things like I help define and manage risks. I help plan out the work. A big thing I do is like communicate the work. What do we plan to do? What have we done? Like, how are we progressing? If something went awry, why did it go awry? Like, what happened? So along with, like, those are standard program manager things, but also the best program managers can help people like make their way through ambiguity and also solve problems in the background. Hopefully half the team doesn't even know there's a problem, right? But there could be some major problem, and the program manager is the one saying, like, okay, I see what the problem is. Let's figure out a solution, and leads the way in helping figure out solutions to these problems that would prevent us from delivering the project or program, either at all or on time or on budget or whatever. So we're master problem solvers is our
Okay,
superpower.
I like that. So what does a typical day look like for you?
It can vary quite a bit. In industry, I spent a lot of time. I mean, communication is a huge part of our role. Making sure that, our stakeholders know what's going on, that we understand what our stakeholders need, that, the program owners know what's going on, have their say when they need to have a say. I mean, they would be a stakeholder, but when I'm saying stakeholders in this context, I kind of mean like there's the program owner and then there's the people outside of the program owner that we're like sort of delivering something to, right? And I think this week I'm writing a program management plan, but in another week, I was like focusing on helping the team define their risks in a way that like is something that we can track over the course of the program, and then helping understand, like, what do we do with it now that we've defined it? What do we do with it? Like, how do we manage it? How do we prevent ourselves from realizing it or mitigating it as much as possible? Sometimes, I help teams work through like conflicts, like I mentioned before. Lead meetings, helping people figure out what to do when it's not clear what to do. Like, the ambiguity can really stall progress. So you always want to make sure as a program manager that you're, on top of places where the next steps are not certain. People don't know what to do next. They're not, there's not a cohesive decision about what to do. So yeah, so I would just lead the team through things like that by helping, break down the problem, what has to be answered today. Let's decide on that, then let's take the next step. And you just nibble away at it. It's like, it's how to eat the elephant. I don't believe in eating elephants. It's just an expression.
Totally understand. Totally fair. I know some of them are just really too good to not continue to use, but you're like, like how to skin a cat. Like I would never skin a cat, right? But like certain expressions just stay with you, right? So as someone who's part of building next generation quantum systems, what's the hardest? Is it the science itself? Is it coordinating people and systems? Or is it communicating the value proposition of what's going on to make sure that the stakeholders and everyone understands?
That's a little bit of a tricky question.
And I
um,
promised you no tricky ones. Okay, I'm sorry.
oh, it's okay. I think, they each have their challenges. When I think about the science itself, we have a lot of brilliant scientists that are really excited about this right now. And so The last thing I would say is that the science is easy. It's certainly not. And like pushing the frontier right now is a lot of work. And sometimes, you look at this next thing, we want to demonstrate this next thing, and you're looking at 6 to 12 months at least to just do this one next thing, right? Because of all the changes you might have to make to a system or all the designs. I mean, it can just be very long timelines. So the patience, I think, is probably the hardest part of all, right? Is how do you do this as fast as you can, but also communicate what you're doing in a way that's like understandable so that people will be sort of patient with the process. Because the frontier that we're at now is, there's been a lot that we could sort of hurry through. But now if we hurry, like we need things to be done really well at this point, right? Like we cannot
Because it's
slap things
foundational,
together
right?
anymore, right?
Exactly,
So
exactly, right.
yeah, because we want these like lower error rates in computation, and we just need more precision in everything we do, and so we have to be more deliberate and more careful. So I think like in the science side, we have the people that are focused and interested in that, and that's like in that sense, it's less of a problem if we let those experts go do their thing. But sometimes I think, like right now, a challenge is transitioning that towards usable products, right? That's a tough thing. And that where the sort of like physics needs to meet the engineering, needs to meet the customer.
Okay, okay. So, how do you navigate moments when you feel less confident, especially when the stakes are so high?
Well, you've always got to have your people, right? The people that have your back, the people that believe in you. I have those people, and if I'm just feeling uncertain about my own ability or my own just capacity to do what needs to be done. As a project manager, I don't feel that way too often. I felt more like I had imposter syndrome a lot as when I was working strictly as a technical person. But yeah, there's always times of uncertainty, right? And as a program manager, sometimes you have to make really big decisions for the team, and then you own it. And so if it's sort of like if I'm having an emotional sort of like I need support, I will go to my people. When I have less confidence in the program or the project, in like making a decision, for example, I just bring in data. I go get more data. Like I try to be as confident as I can in my decisions. And the way that I feel confident is if I have indicators, preferably as quantitative as possible, that tell me that that's the right decision to make.
That's fair. The data is the support. It makes
Yeah.
complete sense. Has confidence become easier for you as you've risen in influence, or has it simply changed shape?
It is definitely increased as I have sort of grown in my roles, right? Like as I have been trusted with more and told I've been doing well with more, that has definitely helped my confidence a lot. So I was at flashback for a minute to the childhood aspect, and when I was a kid, I just was not a very confident person at all. And part of my rural family in South Dakota had told my parents, if you feel like she's struggling with confidence, you should consider getting her a horse. I was a horse crazy girl when I was younger, and they did get me a horse. And it did help with my confidence. And there's like something about working with this very large animal that can really help build confidence. And so, yeah, by the time I was, I think 11, certainly by 13, I was giving writing lessons to like 6-year-old girls. It was pretty awesome. But all of that experience, so that those kinds of experiences help to build my confidence in myself as a person and my capabilities. Like, yes, I know how to do this. I could teach someone else. And similarly, with quantum computing, as you get into senior graduate student or like research scientist positions, you're teaching the others. So you gain some confidence in your ability because you're like, oh, I guess I do know something about this now. I can teach somebody else.
Did you ever have a mentor in one of these fields where you were just so excited by how they saw things that you were like, I want to be you, and then take me in and teach me everything you know. Did you ever have that kind of mentor experience?
I have had several mentor experiences like that, but there's always someone that you're like, wow, everything they touch works, and it just seems to go so well for them. And for me, early, uh, I'm trying to think, like maybe even my second or third year in graduate school, Peter Mounds joined our lab. And he was that guy, right? Where he just like things were, we were all struggling. I was the first student in Jung Kim's lab to trap ions. And so we didn't have a big setup. It wasn't, everything was not perfect by any means, but I was building it and with the help of a postdoc. And Peter Mounds came and made such an amazing difference and was that person. And I was like, oh, he's so good at all these different aspects of this work. And he also set great examples of like documenting your work and making it available for the future students and things like that I just really admired that about him. So he
Oh,
was
that's
he was he was
fantastic.
that guy for me
No, that's
early on.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Would you like to, in turn, be a mentor, either professionally or, personally, academically, with, reaching out to a certain type of student or something? Is it something that you would like to be involved with doing?
Definitely. I think like it's all by the time you get to my point in my career, right? I've been mentored unofficially, I would say, by or non-formally by a lot of people. And for science, it was Peter Mounds. For program management, a lot from a couple of my bosses, JPEC and Kevin Kramer, that are outstanding TPMs. And when you receive that kind of mentorship, where people are really teaching you not only how to do the job, but like how to handle situations and things like that. You just, at least for me, like I really want to give back, right? That helped me so much. I want to be able to do that for someone else.
Okay. Okay. So when you face doubt internally, what's your process for deciding whether to speak up or to step back?
I always take time to digest. I try to be very objective about things. Okay, here is what my concerns are. Are they valid? Like I try to answer that question for myself. Is this valid? What are the indicators that this would be valid? What are the indicators that this is not valid?
Very
Right.
scientific. Okay.
And then if I feel like it's not an obvious answer, or like sometimes like I said, sometimes I need that build up, right? Like I'm not always a super confident person. Like, I don't, some people are just like exuding so much confidence all the time. And I know I'm a good program manager, but that doesn't mean that every second of every day that I'm like 100% sure I'm doing everything right. Like I'm doing the best I can every day. So, I will go to my cohort, right? Like those people that I trust to give me honest feedback and and then go always try to do better and then review it retroactively too, right? Like look back, not to beat myself up, but to say like, okay, I think I rocked this part. I really rocked it, and this other part I think I have room for improvement, right? And that the constant improvement is one of my goals, like always constant improvement.
Absolutely. I think that's a goal for just about everybody, frankly. You should want to do that for yourself. I think it changes your perspective tremendously, right? Like you don't really know how great your home might be until you leave, go somewhere else, and then realize how great your home was,
Yeah.
right? It's one of
Yep.
those things, right? I might have been
Exactly.
speaking as a parent that way. I had a parental moment there for a moment. I have a child in university, so it's
Yep.
kind of like,
Yeah.
because when you're 20, you know everything, right? So,
Yep.
it's one of those moments, right? So let me ask you, what do you see as the most promising near-term applications of quantum computing?
It's like the applications question. Let me just first say, I am not an expert in applications. um, what I've always been really excited about for quantum, though, would be the impact that it can have on healthcare. And so when I think about that, I lean towards things like chemistry applications, because biology to me, in some sense, and I'm sure I'm going to offend someone with this statement, no offense intended, that like at the root of biology is a whole lot of chemistry. And so I feel like as we start solving chemistry problems, that will lead into solving biology problems and ultimately impacting healthcare a lot.
Right? Like in terms of drug discovery.
Drug discovery, or even like how do you set off a series of events so that your body cures itself of cancer? Like how do you like get that immune system boost that doesn't attack your, doesn't prompt like autoimmune responses, for example? Like how do you boost your immune system without boosting your autoimmune response?
No,
For
really, absolutely, right? That's really, I mean, I think that's kind of what got me the most excited about quantum when someone kind of opened up the whole idea of quantum biology to me. And I'm like, wait a minute, my sight is quantum, my hearing is quantum, like nature is quantum, is life science. And just because, we're first kind of beginning to put a wrapper on it doesn't mean that it hasn't been existing in front of us this whole time. We just didn't understand it exactly, right? I mean, that just I love that kind of thing. That just, I think, mind blows my mind completely. So when you're talking about quantum biology, just really basically coming down to quantum chemistry, it's so incredibly true, right? Why do some people, have a disease and yet like their brother, their sister, they don't, and they come from the same genetic pool? Like why do certain things react differently in different people? I could go on and on. I find that absolutely fascinating. So I'm curious, were there any like challenges that you didn't necessarily expect to face early on in your career?
challenges in particular. I feel like my pause is going to make people think I had a silver spoon. Um,
No, don't worry because I can eliminate all pauses, so don't worry about that.
I'm trying to think, what challenges would I have had? I think when, like early in my career, I, Uh, you're gonna have to cut some of this probably. I'm trying to think.
Take your time.
Challenge. Hmm. So I think something that was a career challenge for me that may not immediately be what people think of when they think of career challenges. Maybe other women will think of this, but it was how to have my cake and eat it too when I wanted to have a family. And when I was getting my PhD, it was like, okay, well, then you go to your postdoc and then you go get a full-time position. And you're just, from the time you start your PhD, you're really on this steep career growth, trying to really just grow quickly and make an impression in your field. And that's really hard to connect with taking a lot of time off for having children or spending a lot of time with your young children. And so that was something that always worried me about being in science in general. Now, I ended up with like a very special situation. My husband was able to work part-time, and he like he carried the family for a few years, like in terms of like taking care of things at home a lot during my early years. And also I did end up taking about a year off when I had my first child. I actually had this moment where I thought, you know what? I will just spend the young years of their lives with my children. It turns out I'm just not cut out for that. I couldn't do it. um, I tried. I do love them. I love them to pieces, but I couldn't do it. So I ended up, yeah, that's actually how I started in technical program management. Was my advisor, Jung Sang Kim. He had a big grant, and he said, like, I need help managing this. I need someone who's technical. I don't have time to train someone in what this is about. And I think that you would do a good job at this. And, are you willing to try? And I said, that sounds interesting. And, I'd like to try that. I would love to not be in the lab at 10 o'clock at night. Doing other things at 10 o'clock at night if needed, sure. But, being in the cold lab it was never my favorite thing. So I tried it, and that path worked out really well. For many years, I've been able to work from home. So when my kids were young, I was able to sort of like flip back and forth a little bit as needed. So that like enabled this like lifestyle where I could spend a lot of time with my kids when they were young. So that was probably the biggest challenge, and definitely during those years, I chose to slow down. I chose to slow down my career a little bit in an effort to spend more time with my kids. But I feel like today I'm in a very good spot, regardless of having done that, because I did keep going, right? I may not have been on as steep of a curve at that time, but I was accumulating that time and that experience, just sort of at a different rate.
And so my next question would be, what's a one piece of advice that you would give your younger self at the start of your quantum journey, at the start of your career journey?
Ooh, that I would give advice I would give myself. Yeah, just be open to what comes. Just be open to what comes. Don't have this fixed idea of what your career has to look like before you're really in it.
I like that. I like that. Beyond tech, what personal values drive your work in science and community building?
My number one value is integrity. To me, it's really important that you you're very like honest and forthright. You communicate, with your stakeholders honestly. And yeah, just like no trickery, no subterfuge, just like always being very upfront and honest about what's happening. I think like it always allows the program owner or stakeholders to adapt to what's happening also, I think, but just like knowing what you're getting from someone at face value is just really important to me. So having that integrity and that honesty is just, I think, my number one driving value.
How do you stay motivated personally during setbacks or in complex research challenges?
I am always very focused on the outcome and final results. Something useful is going to come of this. Things do slow down sometimes. It can be frustrating, but it's always considering like, to use program management terms like plan of record. Like what is the plan of record? How are we working against it? Are we going as planned? If we're not going as planned, well then what are we doing about it? So in that sense, like that focus on the project or the program helps me not get too lost in those phases. When I was working strictly as a technical person, I would just feel like this is going on forever. Some things quantum is it can be very challenging. I used to say that trapping ions is like aligning the moon and stars, right? It's just a lot of things have to be right at the same time, and by the time you get the last one right, the first one could be wrong again, like could have drifted or whatever. It was very challenging, and there would be periods where, especially as the first ion trapper in junk science lab, or first student ion trapper, that things would just go slow. And it was harder to see my way past that as a graduate student, looking very close, sort of in front of my face at the progress. But as a program manager, that's the other thing I love about this job in particular, and I'm not like trying to advertise program management necessarily, but I can't help it, is that you're always looking at the project holistically and like how things are progressing and how did you expect them to be going, and like are you outside the bounds of what's reasonable, and you need to just like really change something. So in that sense, like I don't ever feel that I'm like really stuck. I feel like there's a time that I know when I want to do something about it, right?
Okay. What does success mean to you in the context of a long and evolving career?
Ooh, success. I want to see quantum computers be used for these applications. And I want to look back and to be able to say like I helped deliver that. I played a pivotal role in in getting things to where they are because I those projects or programs that were stuck or would have been stuck, I was there and I made sure they didn't get stuck and I kept them moving. And that, meant that we're like 2 or 3 years ahead in on this one thing, because it really can impact the duration like a lot, to not have a project manager that's paying attention. I know that I can have a high impact, and that's what I want for my career, is to be able to look back and say like, wow, look at what we delivered, and look at the role I played in helping deliver those really amazing things.
That's a heck of a legacy, right?
Yep.
I like that. What do you think people misunderstand the most about quantum?
Ooh, I feel like quantum is not easy, but looking at a lot of other scientists and other students getting their PhDs, like there are a lot of hard things out there. People shouldn't be intimidated by quantum just because it has the name quantum and it has some funky things that you don't observe with your eye, right? In the end, like it takes time to learn, like everything else that you master. And, I think people sometimes just shy away from the weird ideas and the fact that it's not super intuitive, but certainly, like I said, like the math describes it and it is predictable, just like just like other areas of science.
Okay. So you've seen both research and you've also been in the execution environment. So where do you think the real breakthroughs are going to come from?
Engineering. I really believe that because at this point, we need we've demonstrated the basic fundamentals. We need more and we need better. How do you get more and how do you get better? Engineering. Like we have to engage the engineers. Like full stop. Like it just has to, that's my opinion. It has to go to the engineers. If we want it, yeah, we want it like faster, better, smaller, more stable, like all those things, engineering, 100%.
Okay. What's something about working in quantum that people don't see, the harder or less visible parts of it?
Ooh, something that they don't see. Hmm. I guess, do you mean like in terms of technical or in terms of business or in terms of like what aspect?
You know, I think more business, but I can see how that's a little too vague. So I'll give you something else. What would you say to a woman who is curious about quantum, but doesn't see herself reflected in the field?
Doesn't see herself reflected in the field, as in she doesn't see someone like her already there?
Correct.
Ah, in general, I would say that everything benefits from diversity. So if there's no one like you in that field, you have a whole lot of potential for impact. And, when I think about just in program management, how many people have tried to basically tell me that they do program management right, and so I should copy them? But I am not them. And, I am different and I should embrace my style. And when I embrace my style, I've been very successful, right? So we shouldn't necessarily try to be like other people. And we shouldn't think that because we don't see people like us there, that doesn't mean we don't have value to add. And in many cases, I think we have much more value to add because of that. because of diversity, right? Because there's
Mhm.
like difference in approach, right? Like
Mhm.
the same approach doesn't always work in my, in my experience. Like same to everybody is same to every situation. You can have like a formula that frequently works, but it's not, you can't, I don't see there being something that just works perfectly every time, is ideal every time, right? And so in that, like the diversity really brings that opening for like just more efficiency, more optimization, more creativity, more lots of things.
What's something about you that people often find surprising?
I think I have a lot more grit than people think I do at the beginning when they first met me. Oh, she's so nice. But yeah, it's actually pretty hard to get past me sometimes. Like if as a program manager, I think people that haven't really worked with me frequently think that I will have trouble holding the line, and I don't, right? But that's like just based on my sort of friendly face and, like outward niceness, I guess, that they think that, will be difficult and that I don't want to hurt people's feelings. But like I think I manage really well to not hurt people's feelings and also make decisions that aren't necessarily what they want.
What question do you wish more people asked you?
Ooh.
And then how would you answer it?
Ooh. If I'm gonna take this and run with it a little bit.
Go right ahead.
What I would like is I like to see more people asking about different working sort of not conditions, but like more part-time options and things like that, where we could be more supportive of families. If so many jobs are like, we want you 100% of the time, or we want you really 120% of the time. And, in the end, like, I think it could help families a lot if businesses could start coming up with better solutions for having like just more options and more normalization of not full-time hours so that we can support young families better, because I just don't see us culturally supporting young families very well right now, which I think makes it hard for women because we're just like are hardwired. We deeply care about our families and our children, and we want to spend time with them. We want to be able to go to that science fair. We want to go pick them up in the middle of the day at preschool and not be completely stressed out about it because I have 5 more hours worth of work to do and it's 3 p.m.
Right.
There's things like that. Like for reasons like that, we just don't support that period in life very well for people.
And if we
And
went, I think your part-time idea makes a lot of sense also just because you could have twice the amount of innovation and with twice the amount of people filling up, the amount of time needed, but people are only taking a section of it. I think it would just allow for a lot more freedom, I think. And with that freedom would come innovation of just sitting there kind of allowing yourself to sit and think, as well as be productive at work. And you, for those of us who have children, we have them for a reason. We want to spend time with them. But yet we still want to be professional and contribute to society and feel exciting about everything that's going on in our lives. So I think that's fair. So I want to leave with this. What's the best piece of advice someone has ever given you?
oh, piece of advice someone has given me. So a couple of times, once personally, once professionally, I've had people say to me, essentially, don't assume this is forever. And, that was like something about that mindset of, you're going to do this while it's good. You're going to invest yourself and you're going to do your best and you'll pursue it while it's the right thing. And then you're going to just move on when the time is right. It gives you this sort of like freedom that, like, sometimes you just do better when you let go a little bit. And for me, just thinking, well, it's okay. Like, I'm not stuck doing quantum computing for the rest of my life because I did it in grad school, for example. If there's something else that interests me, I would jump, right? Coincidentally, both times I was given that advice, it's more, I think, like, I have stuck with that thing that they were talking about in an unusual way, but probably because my approach and philosophy changed because I adopted that attitude of, like, I don't have to make this work. It can work. And if it works, celebrate that it works and enjoy it. But don't try to
Mm,
make it work. It's when you feel like there's something about feeling like you have to that just makes everything a little bit less fun, right?
yeah, much
And
harder.
so, like, that sort of like, don't assume you're going to do this forever kind of mentality is that, you let go and you don't feel so much like you have to, which frees you up to just feel adventurous doing that thing, which is something I think, we all need a little bit of adventure.
I agree. I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I have a bracelet that says on the top of it says, "This too shall pass."
Yep.
And because
It's
you
kind of
all
the same idea.
it's exactly all you have to do is turn the bracelet around. You know what I'm saying? Like you're right. Don't get stuck and allow yourself that peace and that chance to explore. And when you open yourself up, I think then that's when the quantum comes in from all directions that you didn't necessarily know about, right?
Yeah.
And it allows you to even bring yourself to a higher degree of understanding something even about yourself or what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like, even thinking about that way, one of the things is that it kind of prevents you from having a victim mentality too. You're not, you create your opportunities, a lot of them, right? You don't just take opportunities that land in your lap, you also create them by how you interact with others, how you do your work, how you show up and deliver, right? Like, you create opportunities for yourself that way. And as you're living your life and you're living your career, you're not a victim. You're not in the job that you're in because you're a victim, right? You're there because of what you've done so far and what you chose to do. It's a choice, right? It's an active
Mhm,
choice that you're choosing to stay where you are,
mhm.
right? Even though sometimes I think people convince themselves that that's not the case, I think it is typically the case, right? And so, like, I like that aspect that it prevents me from having a victim mentality.
This was fascinating. I really enjoyed our conversation. I truly did, Rachel. I thought it was fantastic.
Thanks,
Where can
Candace.
people find out more about you?
LinkedIn is probably the best place.
Fantastic. Well, make sure to include your LinkedIn bio. And again, thank you so much for your generosity and showing other people different parts of the ecosystem, and show and allowing people to see, there's so many of us in the ecosystem that you should probably be able to find yourself in the data points to see you too can be part of something that's just so exciting and is only just beginning to start, right?
For sure.
Excellent.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Candace. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.